Out to Washington, D.C. now. It is a busy final day in the race for the White House. Both President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden focused on swing states. President Trump is set to hold 5 rallies in 4 states as Biden heads to Ohio and Pennsylvania. Skylar Henry has the latest.
Both campaigns are confident heading into the final hours of the election.
Florida, we're looking very good. If you look at Iowa, we're looking very good.
2 more days, we can put an end to this presidency that has, from the very beginning, sought to divide us.
At a midnight rally in South Florida, President Trump said Joe Biden will ruin the economy.
This election is a choice between a crippling depression or a historic boom.
While the former vice president said the country can't recover from the coronavirus with Mr. Trump in office.
To beat the virus, we first got to beat Donald Trump.
Biden spent yesterday in Pennsylvania, a state the president won by just 44,000 votes in 2016.
President Trump is terrified of what will happen in Pennsylvania.
Nationwide, more than 93 million ballots have already been cast, with some areas seeing more votes than all of 2016.
Everyone's taking it seriously this time. Now I think everyone's saying that they want to be counted.
President Trump said he wants the vote counting to stop on Election Day.
We should know the result of the election on November 3rd, the evening of November 3rd. That's the way it's been, and that's the way it should be.
But that's not true. States continue to count votes after Election Day.
Pennsylvania has always taken a week, for example, to count military ballots.
In several Pennsylvania counties, officials won't start counting mail-in ballots until Wednesday. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
And sticking with that, Pennsylvania is just one of several swing states both candidates have targeted over the past month. Here's a look at where things stand this morning in 3 other key states.
Welcome to Battleground, Arizona. State 48 used to be a sure bet for Republicans, but times have changed. We've seen Arizona turn purple as more and more people have moved here from across the country. Now, President Trump won Arizona 4 years ago, but so far in this election, Joe Biden has had a slight lead in most polls. Still, the race remains very close heading into Election Day, and both campaigns have been out in full force, looking to win our 11 electoral votes.
Hi from Tampa. The Sunshine State is the ultimate swing state with votes almost always split right down the middle. There are a little more than 5 million registered Democrats, 5 million registered Republicans, and some 3.5 million independents who could ultimately decide who will walk away with the state's crucial 29 electoral votes. And get this. In the past 6 presidential elections, only Florida and Ohio have gone for the eventual winner every time, making this arguably the most important state in U.S. presidential elections.
Greetings from Atlanta, where the latest polls are showing Biden and Trump in a statistical dead heat. The race here can go either way. To give you some history, Republican presidential candidates have won Georgia in every election since 1992. Bill Clinton was the last Democrat to win here. In the 2016 election, Trump won Georgia's 16 electoral college votes by 5.7 percentage points. But that was then, and this is now, where there's been a huge shift away from the president, specifically in Atlanta's suburbs, changing politics and demographics, meaning Georgia could flip blue.
It's time for the why, where we find the answers to your big questions. Tomorrow's Election Day, so we're tackling one big worry. Regardless of who wins, there's one group who says it's not what happens on November 3rd that has them scared. I'm talking about investors. Here's why. Because of the pandemic and economic shutdowns worldwide, markets have been up and down. But the bottom line is, it's not the outcome causing a stir on Wall Street. Financial experts say it's the chance election results won't be decided on November 3rd. And the possibility, even if a winner is decided, the transition wouldn't be a smooth one if incumbent President Donald Trump were to lose to former VP Joe Biden. And a market strategist said that's the #1 question we get right now. How will the election affect the market and the economy? Some investors fear a disputed election could lead to disruption and possibly even violence. If so, we could see markets and your 401k take a significant hit. And that's why investors are worried about the 2020 election. And there is a lot to keep track of in this election, during this election season, but we've got you covered. Get around-the-clock updates here on KHOU as well as KHOU.com and our KHOU 11 app.